So I'll tell you why today is the best day I could possibly film this video. What time is it now? I don't even know. It's 3:28 on Wednesday, May 29th. And I have been up since 3 a.m. Well, that's not actually true. I woke up at 3 a.m. I decided to try to have a snack. A snack wasn't helping the problem. I started composing letters to people I probably haven't spoken to in 10 years. I maybe did an outline for this video. Probably started my thesis. I think I told off someone that I should have told off like maybe 6 months ago. I made a shopping list. I totally remembered that I forgot my brother's anniversary. So finally at like 4:30 a.m. when I couldn't take it anymore, I got out of bed, made coffee, had breakfast, started my day, and decided to write my notes for my video on how I manage anxiety. It's perfect. The reason why I'm doing this video is because last week my video was talking about how running, as much as I did, wasn't ultimately helping my anxiety. It may have been something that I relied on to what I thought was manage my anxiety, but in the end I was left with anxiety. I still struggle with anxiety. Lots of people ask me to talk about some of the things that I do to manage my anxiety and not turn to exercise. Where that used to be the instinct for me to be like, okay, let me put my shoes on and go for a run. Now, what are the kinds of things that I do to manage my anxiety that don't involve either increasing the amount of physical activity that I already have planned for the day, adding in extra sessions of whatever training I'm going to do. And by the way, I don't even call what I do now training. I like old lady swim. But the idea is that instead of using activity or using exercise or training as stress management, I do other things. And so I want to talk about that today. I'm going to break this up into two categories because through lots of trial and error, I have learned that there are certain things that I have to do to kind of maintain my mental health on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, on a regular basis somehow, that kind of like set the tone for a sort of ease in my mind or something that will help me sort of manage things. And then there's other things that when I get into a situation of being overwhelmed or feeling a lot of anxiety, there's other things that I will do or activities that I will engage in or kind of like methods that I have for self-care and those times, and that's a little bit different. This is such an important issue, and for the simple fact that most of the time when I talk to people about reducing the amount of exercise that they're doing, the hardest thing for people is to stop exercising or to reduce the amount of exercise that they're doing or training. Most people will say it's because they need it, and it's not because of a fitness reason. Like, nobody watching this channel needs to get more fit. We need to kind of like find reasons to give ourselves a break. So it's very important to have your kind of go-to toolkit for how you manage your mental health without using exercise. I want to be clear here also before I jump into this list that the idea is that you don't overuse exercise and training so that you don't destroy your relationship with your sport or with the exercise that you enjoy doing. This is like preventative, it's like maintenance. And it's really important that we do this so we don't go too far in the other direction, because we know what happens when we go there. Okay, so here are some of the regular things that are in my schedule or in my life that I do to keep kind of like a baseline of anxiety as low as possible. This is not a conclusive list of everything that you can do. This is just specifically to me, this is what works for me. A slight lesson in neurology, and I'm not gonna go too deep into the science here, but the part of your brain that processes anxiety and the part of your brain that processes decision making, yeah, all of that stuff happens in the same place. So if you're feeling super anxious or if you have a baseline anxiety that's kind of high, the last thing you wanna do is throw lots of decisions at yourself. So for me, the first thing that I always think of is I reduce the amount of decisions I have to make in the course of a day. I keep my sort of clothing possibilities pared down to say like a capsule wardrobe kind of thing where I can grab pieces and not really think too much about what's matching or sort of what kind of statement I want to make on a daily basis. Let's face it, it's really no statement at all. I try to create routines and schedules that work for me. For example, I know that if I want to go to the pool, I know that the best time of day where there's the least amount of people is going to be around 11:30 in the morning. So like that's the time I try to go. I am the most boring person in the world when it comes to breakfast. I pretty much eat the same thing every day. I have one variation, and on the days that I swim, I do not eat yogurt because no. And on the days that I don't swim, I will add yogurt to whatever else it is that I'm eating. The idea is that I make a plan and I stick to it, even if the other things in my life might be creating upheaval. I try not to make adjustments in the moment, especially if I'm feeling stressed, because chances are I will not be making a decision based on logic or even maybe what's right for me, but I'll just be thinking too much instinctually and thinking too much with that anxiety brain, and that's really not the time to do that. Okay, the second thing that I do is that, Mom, this one's for you. I try to keep my area as clean and organized as possible. I used to let things kind of pile up and get messy. I know you're shocked, but I have learned over time that when your environment, or when I should say when my environment is cluttered and kind of messy, it feels very chaotic in my mind. So I really go the extra step to try to make sure that I put things away, fold my clothes, stay on top of like cleaning things up. I really try to make sure that like the kitchen, my bedroom, the bathroom, except for that one chair right there that always seems to have a pile of clothes on it. I try to make sure that everything is pretty much organized and clean so that like when I walk into the room, it's like, oh, okay, and like we have order and it feels good. It's really strange, but cleaning and organizing has become self-care for me. I'm not obsessive about it, but I just like to have things kind of organized. Kind of branching off of this one is making sure that I am on top of things like bills, student loans, taxes, doctor's appointments, all of those things. If you have student loans, you know what I'm talking about. You get to this point where you dread opening your emails, or you dread getting mail, or just all these things really kind of eat at you. The best way that I have found to combat that is to make sure that I'm on top of everything. I will write down the dates where different things are due. I will put things in my calendar. It's really important for me in my mind to know that I have at least manage the things that are due. I have made the phone calls I've had to make, and I have made appointments. I have taken care of all of that stuff. I will never pay those student loans. They will bury me in a coffin with a pile of bills from Navient. That is definitely gonna happen. But until then, I just wanna make sure that I'm on top of it. Okay, number 3, and this should probably be number 1, but I'm not really doing this in a particular order, is sleep. This is so important. I don't always sleep very well, and particularly in the 2 weeks before I'm gonna get my period. The second week out is not so bad, but the first week out, hello, right now, I just, oh man, I have such trouble sleeping. I wake up in the middle of the night, I ruminate, I'm thinking of things, so many things come to mind, I'm emotional. I also get more overwhelmed with things in the week before I'm gonna get my period. I mean, I know this stuff is kind of normal, but I just want you to know that like that can also translate into kind of insomnia. I will do things to make sure that I get more sleep. Like this morning, I actually went back to sleep at 8 a.m. and slept from 8 to 10:30 because I knew that my body needed it. I also really have an issue with like the stigma around napping, especially in America. It seems that people have like this real thing about napping being equated with laziness, but listen, if you are exhausted and you do not sleep through the night, or you don't have time, or you're up studying, or for whatever reason, it's fine, nap. Like, give yourself the gift of a nap. There is really nothing better. If your body is calling out for rest, like you need to listen to that. So one of the things that's important for me in order to make sure that I get enough sleep, and this is a little bit tricky, it's gonna actually lead into the next point, is that I sometimes will either skip out on certain social events, or I will come home early just to make sure that I get enough sleep. But that leads me to the next point, which is this. This is kind of strange coming from someone who has social anxiety and someone who's an introvert. As I have studied for this master's degree in psychology, I have noticed one of the through lines with mental illness is that people tend to do better in community. Therefore, one of the things I do as maintenance is I try to be social. I do social things regularly. I say yes to invitations, even when I don't feel good, probably especially when I don't feel good. This is really hard work for me. It is not intuitive for me. My husband's totally different. Like, he wants to go out and be with people all the time. It takes a lot out of me energetically, and sometimes I don't want to do it. However, every time I do, I always feel better. It's always a mood lift. I'm able to shift something in my mindset. I can think less about my anxiety, can think more of interacting with people. I always have fun. This is maintenance. This is not just sporadic. I really try to keep this as part of my life on a weekly, monthly, everything basis. So I think we are on the 5th point now. The 5th thing that I have to do to maintain my mental health, again, studying this master's degree, one of the things I have also learned is that whatever we keep inside has a tendency of eating at us. It's very understandable that sometimes people think they're gonna burden someone else with their problems, or they really think that if they suppress their problems, they're gonna feel better. This is not the case. It's really important for me to open up. When I don't, I get very emotional, I become moody, I kind of get bitchy. I will like say stupid things to my husband, or I will become like tight or critical or just like rigid if I don't talk about what's really upsetting me. By the way, I also want to say, like, yes, I have my husband. You might have a partner or a parent or, you know, a sibling or a therapist. It doesn't matter who it is, by the way. If you have a person in your life that you can trust, even if you have to pay them for that, like, that's all it takes. You just need, in my case, it's so good to be able to just open up and express things. They may not always make a lot of sense. They may not always be logical. They may not always be exactly what I wanted to say, if that makes any sense. But the fact that I'm just able to sort of get it out is really helpful. So I make sure that I incorporate that into my life as much as I can. The last one is kind of a fun one. I try to make sure I always have a project going or some kind of creative endeavor that I'm working on. For me, it's something that makes me feel productive or that I'm enriching myself in some way. So maybe it's something kind of like funny, like doing like needlepoint or knitting. And sometimes it's me just working on finishing a book that's really long. I just always make sure that I have something kind of going in the background that I can grab or reach or do when I just kind of need a break from, let's say, schoolwork to maybe doing YouTube videos or finishing the book that I'm writing. You know, there's just some kind of other thing that keeps me going and makes me feel good inside. And like I said, I think creativity in this case is great because it doesn't matter if it's good or not. It doesn't matter if it's like professional or fancy. It just feels good when I do it, and I like having fun with something new. Let's talk about the things that I do when I'm having an acute moment of anxiety, a freak out. Maybe I've had a panic attack, which hasn't happened lately, but let's just say I'm having a sensation of overwhelm. What do I do? So I am not going to lie. I will come into this bedroom, I will close the curtains, I will get Tulip, I will lay on this bed in the most comfortable clothing I can possibly find. I will make sure that my climate is what I want it. So if it's hot out, I want it to be cold in here. If it's cold out, I want to be snuggled up and warm. I will take a beverage in here, whether it's water or tea or whatever it is that I want to like keep myself feeling good with. I will lay on this bed right back there, and I will put my laptop on my belly, and I will kind of lose myself in YouTube videos or Netflix or whatever. When I have a real problem with anxiety, I can't even read, I can't write, I can't like get my brain to work. So really what I need is just a little bit of kind of just mush time in my head. So I am makeup tutorials, I am TED Talks, I am travel videos, I am author interviews and like writing tips. I try to watch something that's a little bit interesting. Like, I will not watch total trash. Like, you will not catch me watching a 10,000 calorie challenge video or, you know, celebrity gossip. Like, I'm not about that. But I will watch something fun that kind of is interesting to me that doesn't really require me to think a lot. This is when I'm like binging on Queer Eye, or when I am like watching Steel Magnolias for the 10,000th time. Like, whatever. It's just something for me to just really decompress and just feel kind of in a bubble of peace for a little while. Sometimes what also works for me is a little bit of deep breathing or meditation, resetting my brain, because deep breathing helps reset all of your kind of stress activation in your body. Since I know that the science is strong on that, I will do a little bit of deep breathing just to calm everything down. I will take a shower. I am very sensitive to not feeling clean and not feeling like I smell the way I want to smell. I know that sounds really weird, but sometimes you'll come in from being outside all day and you feel a little bit sticky, you feel, you know, whatever it is. I will just jump in the shower, like use tons of shower gel, use tons of conditioner in my hair, feel like fresh and clean and smelling good, and put on really comfy clothes, and that tends to chill me out too. There is science that says that a cold shower reduces cortisol, so if I'm feeling particularly stressed and it's not too cold out, I will definitely hit the cold water. More science will tell you to hug someone. Oxytocin is a thing, and it will be released in your brain when you get to hug someone or when someone hugs you. It can also work with a pet, so find something furry or non so furry to hug, and that really helps me in the moment. I call my mom, excuse me, or my dad. It's funny because for my mom, I will call her to like vent and complain about things or kind of like really get my emotions out. And for my dad, I will call for like comic relief a little bit, or just to kind of maybe change my brain and have like a, you know, ridiculous political debate. They both serve different purposes for me if I'm really having a moment of anxiety, but I definitely will offload onto my parents. Sorry guys. And none of this required physical activity, training, sports, exercise, or anything of the sort. Remember again, the idea is not about not doing exercise. The idea is not using exercise as a weapon against your anxiety, because anxiety will always win. Use your sport for what it's supposed to be used for, which is participation in athletics for whatever, you know, reason for you, but don't use it to manage your emotional state, because that is fighting a losing battle. I hope that this helped today. I hope that listening to me talk about how I manage my anxiety might help you think of ways to manage yours. I also want to say that it sounds like I put like way more brain on this than I really do. A lot of these things are just kind of intuitive, and they're just skills that I have just implemented in my life and I don't really think about too much anymore. But I encourage you to take the time to think about what feels good for you, what feels good. Again, remember, like, not running, not exercise, but like what feels good to you in your body and in your mind and in your heart, in your soul, when you're with people, and try to think about how you can incorporate those things into your life. Remember that self-care also might not be exactly what you think. So yeah, for me, it's cleaning my house and making sure I'm on top of my bills. For you, maybe it's, I don't know, just listen to yourself. Your intuition will not lead you down the wrong path on this. So I am really tired, but I am feeling pretty good despite my insomnia. I'm gonna keep going, have a snack, and edit this video. I hope you have a great day wherever you are. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.